that all of philosophy is a footnote to Plato, but all of contemporary philosophy is a reaction to Hegel. I think that's right. Even the Kantians are kind of reacting to Hegel in kind of a, no, we're not going that way. I remember at the APU lecture hall for a nice lecture one night, a philosopher from California was up giving a lecture, and at one point she said, Kant is the end. Once we get to Kant, there's no more metaphysics. What about Hegel? What are you doing? Oh, I got to ask. I said, well, what about Hegel? And she said, Hegel? Well, something happened there. I don't understand what it was. Okay, so how can you deny that there was a whole history since then? That's just ridiculous. But so was Alfred North Whitehead thinking? Oh, I should mention him. So you get because he's actually a significant philosopher. What is he talking about when all of contemporary philosophy is a reaction to Hegel? This is really how the rest of the course will go. We'll have John Stuart Mill that we talk about next. John Stuart Mill publishes in 1859, the same year that Charles Darwin publishes The Origin of the Species. On Liberty, he publishes in 1859. So both of those books come out. And how do I kind of encapsulate utilitarianism? That's not only Bertrand Russell, but also John Stuart Mill and Jeremy Bentham, who we'll talk about when we're talking about Mill. Let me show you. You can still see Jeremy Bentham, even though he's dead. In fact, this is there you go. What I could do is just click on the pictures, because I know that picture was in this page. And there he is. And there's two pictures of him. So as you go into the one library or the school, in fact, one of my students years ago was touring London, went in there and did a selfie in front of this and sent it to me, because he had visited Jeremy Bentham. But obviously the body is dead, and what they sometimes show is the actual head sitting down here on the floor. That's a wax head. But the neat thing about this booth is it's on wheels, and even though it's sitting there, well, actually, I believe they've moved it now.
Did he have his head chopped off? Why is this on?
Well, he's dead.
Why is
They
this
took the
sitting
head
in a
off.
box?
They embalmed the body, but rather than having a dead head sitting on the top of this in the public view, they had the head embalmed, but sitting on the.
I feel like if you lose the head in the process of an embalming, then you just have to.
Well, look what happened to Descartes. Descartes' head is, but I don't know if they. Yeah, there it is. There's the head. So you could actually see the.
Oh, it was a severed. It was.
Well, it's severed after he died. That's not how he died. But yeah, it's on display. But the thing is, in his will, and this is at the University College London, where this is, he's on the board of trustees. And according to his will, he needs to keep attending every meeting. So every board meeting, they wheel him into the meeting. So he's listed as still attending, as per usual. Sorry. So Jeremy Bentham. But when we talk about Mill and utilitarianism, what is it all about? I think when I was doing my cognitive map, I said that, well, it's evolution of ethics. Evolution, utility. We're doing the greatest good for the greatest number. But how do we do that? Well, we have to keep using science in order to figure out the best method. And so essentially it's the ethic by which ethics keeps evolving to be better. Right? So that would be my take, just in general on utilitarianism. If you go, and then we'll also talk about Kierkegaard, Søren Kierkegaard. And Søren. As we look at him, he's Danish. Kierkegaard, by the way, means churchyard, and the family got that name because they were allowed to live in the house in the churchyard, in the cemetery. Spooky, actually. But in any case, his philosophy we think of as existentialism, Christian existentialism, right? But I should point out that Hegel had 3 roommates in Tübingen University. They were counting himself, so there's 2 others, and one of them is Schelling, Friedrich Schelling. Oh, that's much more complex. Plus, they don't have pictures. So let's go to the Wikipedia. So he's one of Hegel's roommates. In fact, he's younger than Hegel by a few years. And he went on to be famous before Hegel. And it was thanks to him that Hegel got invited, after 7 years being a tutor in different houses, he was invited to come to Jena where Schelling was teaching. And Hegel joined him there. So their relationship was close up until Hegel printed the Phenomenology of Mind, or Spirit, because part of it is a critique of Schelling's system. And that was the end of their friendship. Even though Hegel kept trying to be friends and saying, it's not really I wasn't really being critical of you, and Schelling was it's kind of interesting, their relationship. But Schelling referred to his philosophy as existence philosophy, which is essentially German for existential philosophy. So I don't get it. I don't see why Kierkegaard became the one who's famous for that. But essentially, what is Kierkegaard doing when Bentham looked better dead? But when you think about what existentialism is, it's thinking that the only thing that really exists is this dialectical process that's going on inside my own head. Well, remember, in the socially constructed reality, you get to see how concrete becomes concrete, how the ideas become, and some don't. I mean, somebody comes up with a new idea and it doesn't take off, right? It just disappears, goes away. So there's something out there that is reality that this dialectical process has to fit, right? The form of life, so to speak. And so existentialism seems to say, no, it's all in your mind. The whole situation is just me. And I'm the one that is responsible for everything being the way it is. So in a sense, they take the dialectical process that Hegel's giving us in his philosophy and just take the one side of it and say that's all that we really need to think about. And so they lose the practical interconnectedness that has to be there with the real world. On the other hand, you get this guy who will do after Kierkegaard, and you can be safe. You can come, and I won't corrupt you. There are important aspects of Karl Marx. He actually wasn't the one who founded communism. He was invited to write the pamphlet on communism. But in any case, well, that's the Communist Manifesto. He was paid to do that, actually. But he's a follower of Hegel, but he thinks that it's nonsense. We're not free at all. Everything is totally materialistically determined. So that the only possible thing that you could think of is what's... Actually, this is almost exactly what Robert Sapolsky would say today. Oh, sorry. There we go. Random House is okay.
It's still a paywall though. If you go to the library, it looks like there's no paywall.
Oh, well, I'm just trying to show you the book. And that I remember the name. And this one just came out recently. But he and I don't really support his view at all. He argues pretty much as Marx does, that we're totally determined by our position in the economy, our social class, our physical situation, our wealth, etc. I mean, there's certainly a lot to that. That's very important, and he developed a whole part of sociology and economics are all associated with Marx. But again, just like Kierkegaard, that's like only one half of the dialectical picture. And so communism basically was grounded on a mistake and fell apart, obviously. Because the communists thought, well, we just have to tell people what to think and they'll think that. And they discovered that they can tell people what to think and the people will tell them, this is what you told me to think. But meanwhile, they're thinking something else. So it didn't work. They didn't understand human psychology, which you could get from the existentialists, except the existentialists are not getting the real economy, and so you end up with Europe kind of split between communists that are failing and existentialists that are failing, right? So where does Hegel's philosophy go? Pragmatism. So if you look at the United States, we're loaded with all these contradictions. Okay, you're completely free. No, but you're dependent on your situation. No, wait a minute. That's contradictory. Well, actually, part of this dialectical process is contradictory. I mean, if we look back at what's going on here, there's a constant dialectical process between yes, I am, no, I'm not. Yes, I am, no, I'm not. And I supersede myself. That's the thing. The oak tree starts off what? As an acorn. Actually, you could go back further than that because it's a blossom on an oak tree that then is, inseminated, I suppose. However, I'm not a botanist or whatever, but you end up with an acorn growing and then it falls from the tree. If it lands in a good spot, it becomes a seedling, etc. So it's organic. And at each stage of this, we like to impose, it's an oak tree seedling. We have a category. We can only, it seems, think in categorical ways ever since, thank you, Aristotle, who gave us true sentences. What is a true sentence? This category is inside this category, right?
But the tree is only part of it, because the squirrel's part of it, just like the flower and the bee are part of it together.
This is, did I show you Mind Walk? There's a movie called Mind Walk.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Right, where it's all the things that live in the tree, all the things that grow on the tree, the nematodes, that are feeding the roots, and the roots are interacting with the other trees, finding the mother tree. Hegel doesn't know all this stuff, but we do. And what we're seeing is his model fits our newer and newer ideas, right? But our problem is we think, aha, this is a seedling. But it isn't just that. In fact, he also talks about it. Everything that it's not is also part of it. Because it's a seedling, it's an oak tree, it's not a pine, it's not a spruce, it's not a birch, it's not a squirrel itself. It's not a this, that, or the other thing. And then somebody steps on it and now it's dead. Shoot, well maybe I can get it back. Maybe it'll still grow. The organic view of things, you have everything kind of evolving, moving. It doesn't stay. It's rocks maybe, But as you see, it's changing, it's transforming, it mediates itself with itself and unites with itself, and each is for itself and for the other. It's this dynamic process. Things, they're mutually recognizing one another. Everything is changing. So when we categorize something, we're making a mistake. We're thinking, aha, that's that. No, there's other ways of looking at it, and plus, especially if it's something alive, it's transforming itself. And so he has this nice word of supersede. It supersedes itself, or sublates itself. A word, it's a genuine English word. I don't see people using it in nearly as many contexts as they ought to, because each of us have sublated ourselves, from when I was a little child. I'm no longer that, right? I've sublated that. And sublated means nicely, I'm still that. It's not like that baby died and there I am. No, I'm still growing and evolving like the oak tree.